My husband didn't just cheat on me emotionally. He did something far crueler. He forced me to become the personal knitter for his secret family. Can you believe it? For 7 long years, I took his money, stayed up late, knitting every blanket, every sweater for the son he had with his mistress, all while thinking I was helping to support our family. All the evidence of his betrayal was frozen for 50 years inside a humming freezer at the end of the hall, a place he swore on his life I was forbidden to touch. Today, that freezer has been cracked open, and my heart is shattered. My name is Margaret, and this is the story of how a woman had her entire life stolen right under her own roof. Before we dive into this cold truth, please hit that subscribe button and leave a comment telling me where in the world you are listening from. Don't let anyone exploit your kindness the way I endured mine. Now, let me take you back to where it all started. To understand everything properly, we need to go back to 1967. I was 18 years old. I was a skinny girl with a long braid who helped my mom take care of my 5 younger siblings. Back then, a poor girl from the country didn't have much choice in life, you know. We grew up helping around the house, learning to cook, to wash, to iron, to sew. My mom taught me to knit when I was 10 years old. She used to say that a woman who knew how to knit would never go hungry because she would always have a way to make a few bucks. And she was right. But she never imagined that this gift she passed on to me would be used in such a cruel way. It was in March of 1967 that I met Wayne. He was a mechanic, worked at a garage in the neighboring town. He was 21. He was tall, dark-haired, a man of few words. My father knew his father from back in the day. They worked together on a farm. One day, my father came home and said, "Margaret, you are going to marry Mr. George's son. He is a hard worker, has a trade, he will take care of you." Simple as that. Back in those days, that's how things worked. Father decided. Daughter obeyed. I didn't even know Wayne properly. We saw each other about 3 times before the wedding. He would come to my house, sit in the living room, and stay talking to my father while I served coffee. He barely looked at me. I was scared of him. To tell you the truth, he was very serious, very closed off, but I couldn't say no. And one 8-year-old girl didn't say no to her father back then. I know, to you young folks listening, this probably sounds absurd. But back then, a father's word was law. We women were raised to bow our heads, not to fight back. I didn't have a choice, or rather, I didn't know I was allowed to have one. We got married in July of 1967. It was a simple wedding at the town church. I wore a white dress that my mother sewed. Wayne wore a borrowed suit. There was a small party at my parents' house with cake, soda, and some finger foods. And at the end of the afternoon, Wayne took me to the little house he had rented in the town where he worked. I remember I cried the whole night. I cried from missing my mom, my siblings, my home. I cried from fear of what my life would be like from then on. Wayne didn't console me. He slept with his back to me, without saying a word. The first years of marriage were hard. Wayne worked all day at the auto shop, arrived home late, tired, covered in grease, barely spoke to me, ate dinner, took a shower, and went to sleep. On weekends, he went out with his friends to shoot pool, drink a beer. I stayed home alone. I didn't know anyone in that town. Didn't have friends, didn't have family nearby. It was just me, the house, and the silence. I started knitting to pass the time. I made doilies, dish towels, things like that. A neighbor saw them and ordered a blanket for her daughter who was getting married. Then another person ordered a baby cardigan, and that's how I started getting a clientele. The money I earned from knitting helped with the household expenses. Wayne never complained about it. In fact, he actually liked it, because that way I stayed quiet, busy, and didn't get on his nerves. In 1972, I got pregnant. It was the only time I saw Wayne show any emotion. He was happy. It wasn't that wide-open happiness, but you could tell he wanted that child. Our daughter was born in January of 1973. We named her Savannah. She was tiny, a redhead just like my mom, with little green eyes that shone. When Savannah was born, I thought things would get better between me and Wayne. I thought we would get closer, that he would be more affectionate, but it wasn't like that. He stayed exactly the same. I worked, came home, ate dinner, slept, and went out on weekends. The The difference is that now I had Savannah to keep me company, and I clung to that girl as if she were my lifeline. I poured all the love I had inside me into that child. The years went by. Savannah was growing up. I kept knitting. The orders increased. I was already known in town as the knitting lady. People came to my house, ordered pieces. I made them, delivered them, got paid. That was how I spent my days, knitting and taking care of my daughter. Wayne continued being the same closed-off, distant man of few words. But I got used to it. I learned to live with that silence. I learned not to expect affection from him. I learned not to expect anything. In truth, I had Savannah. I had my knitting. I had my routine. And I thought that was what marriage was. I thought all married women lived like this, in silence, in loneliness, doing what had to be done. It was in October of 1974 that the silence truly began. Our daughter Savannah was just a toddler, not even 2 years old. The air was starting to get chilly, and I was in the backyard hanging clothes on the line when I heard the noise of a truck in front of the house. I went to see what it was. There was an old pickup truck parked on the street, and Wayne was there talking to a man. The two were unloading something big, covered with a tarp. Wayne saw me at the door and yelled, "Margaret, open the gate there. I'm coming in with something." I opened the gate. The two men carried that heavy thing, passed through the living room, went back to the little back room. It was a small room we used to store old junk, tools, things like that. When they took off the tarp, I saw what it was, a freezer. One of those large, white horizontal chest freezers, only this one was old, rusted on the sides, with the lid dented in one corner. Wayne paid the man. He left. I stood there, staring at that freezer. Wayne plugged it into the outlet. The motor started to hum, that loud, continuous noise. Then he looked at me with a face I had never seen, a mixture of anger and fear. He spoke slowly, his voice deadly serious. "Margaret, pay attention to what I'm going to say. This freezer here is mine. I'm going to keep some of my things here. Tools, parts from the shop, stuff like that. You will never, under any circumstances, open this freezer, understand? Never." I stood there confused. I said, "But Wayne, why a freezer just to store tools? We don't even have a freezer to store food, and you bring one to store tools?" He took a step in my direction. His look was different, dangerous. "Did you understand what I said, Margaret? You will never open this freezer. This is none of your business. These are my things, man stuff. You never put your hand in here." That was the moment the dynamic of their marriage shifted forever. It wasn't just an appliance. It was a metal cage built right in the middle of her home, fueled by fear. But you won't believe what he was actually hiding inside. Stick around, because the truth is stranger than fiction. I felt scared. I stayed quiet. I nodded yes. He left the little room, came back with a big padlock, one of those gate padlocks, and locked the lid of the freezer. He put the key in his pants pocket. From that day on, he walked around with that key hanging around his neck on a little chain, took showers with the key, slept with the key, never took it off. That freezer became the third person in our marriage. It sat there in the back room, a white, cold monster that hummed day and night. Hum, hum, hum. It was the heartbeat of a house that had no love. People ask me, "Margaret, how does an old machine run for 50 years without breaking?" I ask myself that too. Maybe my fear and Wayne's madness kept that electricity flowing. Or maybe the devil just knows how to preserve his dark secrets better than anything else. On nights when Wayne turned his back to me in bed, leaving me staring at the dark wall, I could hear it through the thin walls. It mocked me. It reminded me that there was a part of him I was forbidden to touch. I started to hate that sound, yet I was terrified of the silence if it ever stopped. I was a prisoner in my own home, guarded by a machine and a padlock. Years later, when Savannah was about 12, she asked, "Dad, what's in that freezer?" Wayne looked at her with that grim face and said, "My things. None of your business. And I don't want you or your mother near that back room. Heard me?" And that was it. The freezer stayed there locked, humming day and night. I heard that constant noise, especially in the early morning, when everything was quiet. That hum, hum, hum. For 50 years, I looked at that little room and asked myself what the hell was inside that freezer that was so important. But I never asked again, never tried to open it. Back then, a woman didn't question her husband. If he said it wasn't to be opened, it wasn't to be opened. Simple as that. Even though it ate me up inside, even though I lost sleep thinking about what could be in there, I obeyed. As always, I obeyed. And life went on. Please, don't blame me for being weak. Resignation is like a sleeping pill. You take a little sip every day, and you get used to the darkness, used to the silence, until you wake up one day with white hair, realizing half your life has slipped away. The freezer there locked, humming, and me here knitting, taking care of the house, raising Savannah, not knowing that inside that freezer was kept the most painful secret of my life. The years went by, and that freezer remained there locked, making that noise that never stopped. I tried not to think about it, tried to focus on my life, on my work, on Savannah, but it was hard. Every time I passed near that back room, my heart tightened. Something was wrong there. I felt it. But what could I do? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Savannah was growing up. She was a studious, intelligent girl. She finished elementary, middle school. In 1989, she started working at a small fabric store in town. She earned little, but helped at home. Wayne continued working at the garage. I continued with my knitting. It was around that time, late in 1973, just a few months before the freezer arrived, that a different customer appeared. I remember her well because she was very elegant. In a small town in rural Maryland, where women wore simple cotton dresses and flip-flops, she always showed up well-dressed. She wore a skirt to the knee, a blouse of good fabric, low-heeled shoes. Her hair was always styled, tied in a bun. She wore red lipstick, something almost no one used around here back then. Her name was Barbara. She knocked on my door on a Tuesday afternoon. I was knitting a blanket ordered by Mrs. Dorothy, my neighbor. I answered the door and came face to face with that beautiful, perfumed woman, smiling at me. "Are you Mrs. Margaret who knits?" she asked, with a soft, polite voice. "That's me," I answered. "Oh, good. I've heard very good things about your work. I wanted to order some pieces. Do you have a moment for us to talk?" I told her to come in, offered coffee. She accepted. We sat at the kitchen table. She took a little notebook out of her purse and started writing notes. Said she wanted a large, light blue wool blanket. Said she also wanted some baby cardigans, newborn size, one blue and another yellow. Wanted table doilies, the crochet kind, you know, the very intricate ones, with flower designs. I wrote everything down. Asked when she needed it. She said she was in no rush, that it could be in 2 months. I asked if it was for a party, a birthday. She smiled and said, "It's for someone very special to me." She didn't give more details and I didn't insist. A customer is a customer. It wasn't my business to know what she wanted that for. We agreed on the price. She thought it was fair, didn't haggle, paid half up front right there in cash. Said she would come back to pick it up when it was ready. I wrote down her name, Barbara. Didn't write down a last name because she didn't give one. She said goodbye, polite, and left. I started on her orders. I bought the light blue wool, the yellow wool, the thread for the crochet. I spent days working on that. The blanket turned out beautiful. The cardigans turned out cute, tiny, delicate. The doilies were perfect. Barbara returned exactly 2 months later. She loved everything. Took the pieces, examined them one by one, praised my work, paid the rest, and before leaving, she said, "Mrs. Margaret, I'm going to need to order more things. Do you mind if I come back?" "Of course not. Come back whenever you need," I replied. And she came back. Came back many times. For years, Barbara was my most constant customer. She ordered all kinds of things. Blankets, cardigans, baby booties, caps, mittens, everything always in baby colors. Blue, yellow, pink, light green. I thought it was strange she ordered so much baby stuff, but I thought maybe she resold them or had many godchildren or I don't know what. It wasn't my business. What caught my attention the most was that she always asked me to embroider initials on the pieces, specific letters. I remember there was one time she ordered a navy blue cardigan and asked me to embroider a W on the little pocket. Another time she ordered a little white blanket and asked for W+B, embroidered in the corner inside a heart. I embroidered without asking anything, did my job properly. She paid well, always advanced part of the money, never was late to pick up. She was any seamstress's dream customer. But there was one strange thing. Every time she came here to the house, she seemed in a hurry, didn't stay long, didn't accept coffee, didn't talk about her life. It was all very fast. She arrived, took the order, or made a new request, paid, and left. And she always looked sideways before entering, as if she was afraid someone would see her here. Can you see the cruelty in that? Why would she come into the enemy's den? Looking back, I don't think she came to mock me. She just craved to breathe the same air as Wayne, to see where her man lived, even if she had to play the role of a guilty stranger. Once I offered, "If you prefer, I can deliver the orders to your house. It's no trouble at all." She got kind of awkward and said, "No need, Mrs. Margaret. I prefer to come pick them up here myself. It's easier for me." I found that strange, but didn't insist. Everyone has their quirks, their ways. Barbara was my customer for years, from 1973 until about 1980. It was 7 years of constant orders. I made so many things for her that I lost count. Must have made some 50, 60 pieces throughout those years, maybe more. The money she paid me helped a lot at home. I managed to buy better clothes for Savannah, managed to do a fuller grocery run, managed to save a little money for emergencies. Wayne never asked where that extra money came from. He knew I knitted, knew I had customers. To him it made no difference. There was one order I will never forget. It was early in 1974. Barbara arrived on a winter afternoon. It was cold, I remember well. She entered all bundled up in a gray wool coat, sat in my living room, and said she wanted a special piece. "Mrs. Margaret, I need a special baby cardigan, but it has to be perfect. The best you have ever made. Can be baby blue with little white buttons, and I want you to embroider a name on the chest." "What name, Miss Barbara?" I asked. She looked me right in the eyes and said, "Wayne Jr." I froze. Wayne, my husband's name. I thought that was the biggest coincidence in the world. I said, "How curious. My husband is named Wayne." She gave a small smile, kind of awkward, and said, "It's a nice name, right?" The audacity of this moment is truly heartbreaking. Margaret stands there, completely innocent, staring right into the eyes of the woman, destroying her family without even knowing it. It makes you wonder, was this a game to them? The answer is coming, and it's cruel, not very common. "Not really," I agreed. She paid up front, as always, said it was urgent, that she needed it in 3 weeks. I promised I would do it. I spent days making that cardigan, bought the softest blue wool there was at the store, chose little white pearl buttons, did stitch by stitch with all the care in the world. I embroidered the name Wayne Jr. with white thread, in cursive letters, very delicate. It turned out beautiful. It was one of the most beautiful pieces I ever made in my life. When Barbara came to pick it up, she held the cardigan to her chest, closing her eyes as if trying to absorb the warmth from the wool. When she looked at me, her eyes were swimming in tears. She reached out and, for the first time, touched my hand. Her skin was soft, warm, so different from Wayne's rough calluses. "You have a gift, Margaret," she whispered, using my first name like an old friend. "You are weaving love into this. The child who wears this will feel it." My heart swelled. I felt seen. I felt useful. I didn't know then that she was thanking me for loving the son she gave my husband, while my own daughter starved for his attention. She paid the rest, put the cardigan in a bag with all care, and left. I stood there thinking that must be for a grandson, a nephew, some very special child to her. The truth never crossed my mind. After that order, Barbara still came back about 2 or 3 times, always ordering baby pieces, always asking to embroider initials, always in a hurry, always kind of suspicious, and me always doing the work properly, without asking anything. Until in 1984, she stopped coming. Simply stopped. I waited. I thought she was traveling, that she was busy. But a month passed, 2 months, 6 months, a year. She never appeared again. I even got worried. I thought maybe she had moved out of town or that something had happened to her, but I didn't know where she lived. didn't have a way to go after her, and honestly, I had other customers, other orders. Life went on, but I confess I missed her orders, not just for the money, but because I liked making those delicate baby pieces, liked embroidering those names, those initials. There was something special in that. I put affection into those works, more affection than I put into the other orders. I don't know how to explain why. Maybe because I knew those pieces were for someone very loved. I felt that, and now, looking back, I understand why. During all those years, from 1973 to 1980, I was knitting for my husband's other family. I was making blankets, cardigans, towels, booties for the son he had with his mistress. I was embroidering his name, embroidering initials that represented his love for another woman. My hands worked, my fingers wove, my needle went in and out of the wool, creating perfect stitches. And I didn't even suspect that every one of those stitches was a lie. Every piece I made was a betrayal. Wayne knew. Of course he knew. He is the one who must have set it all up. He must have asked Barbara to come here, pretend she was just another customer, order the things. He used my work, my gift, my skill, to support his lie, to dress his son, the son he had with another woman. And the worst of all is that he made me charge her. I charged her. I received the money. Money that probably came from his own pocket. He was paying me to knit for the son of his betrayal. It's funny, in a bitter way. My husband took our money, gave it to his mistress, so she could hire his own wife. He didn't just steal my love. He turned me into cheap labor to build his own happiness. Is there any pain more humiliating than that? Can you imagine the depth of that cruelty? Using his wife's talent and hard work to warm the family he was hiding from her? It's a level of manipulation that is hard to comprehend. But Margaret's reaction coming up shows a strength we should all aspire to. What kind of man does something like that? What kind of heart can be so cruel? But at the time, I didn't know anything. I was just an innocent, hard-working woman who did her knitting every day, trying to help with the household expenses. A woman who woke up early, made coffee, took care of her daughter, washed clothes, ironed, cooked, and in her spare time picked up the needle and wool and knitted. Knitted for customers I didn't even know properly. Knitted because it was what I knew how to do. I remember a night in 1976. I was knitting a blue blanket for Barbara. It was late. Everyone was already asleep. Wayne, Savannah, just me, awake in the living room, with the dim light of the lamp doing my work. And from the back room came the constant drone of that freezer, that low, steady hum that never stopped. I looked toward the hallway, in the direction of that little room, and thought, I wonder what's in there. Why won't he let me open it? And 1,000 possibilities passed through my head. I thought it could be hidden money. I thought it could be something stolen. I thought it could be a weapon, drugs, I don't know. But never ever did it cross my mind that inside that freezer were kept the proofs of his betrayal, the proofs of a double life he had been leading for years. I went back to knitting. My fingers moved automatically. Knit stitch, purl stitch, knit stitch, purl stitch. And that blanket was growing in my hands. Light blue, soft, warm, made with all the care in the world, made for the son I didn't know existed. Life went by slowly, the way life passes in the country. The days were all the same. I woke up early, made coffee, took care of the house, did my knitting. Wayne continued working at the garage. Savannah grew up, got a boyfriend, a good young man named Kevin. They dated for 3 years and married in 1992. It was a beautiful wedding, simple, but beautiful. She went to live with him in a little house on the other side of town. I was left alone with Wayne. Just the two of us in that house that suddenly seemed huge and empty. Savannah always found a way to come visit me 2-3 times a week. She knew I was alone all day, but even so, the loneliness weighed heavily. I spent hours and hours without exchanging a word with anyone. Wayne arrived from work later and later, sometimes only around 8 or 9 o'clock at night. Ate dinner and went to sleep. Didn't even ask how my day was. I continued with my knitting. The orders decreased over time. Younger people didn't want those knitting, crochet things anymore. They wanted clothes bought in stores. But I still had my faithful customers, older ladies, just like me, who still valued handmade work. Barbara never appeared again. I thought about her once in a while. Had she moved? Had she died? There was no way to know. She had been just another customer who passed through my life. The 2000s arrived. We entered the new millennium. I was already 51. Wayne was 54. He started having health problems, high blood pressure, cholesterol. The doctor told him to go on a diet, stop eating fatty meat, stop drinking. He didn't obey much, no. Continued eating fried pork skins, ribs, drinking his beer on the weekend. In 2005, he had his first stroke. It was mild, thank God. His mouth was a bit crooked for a few days, but he recovered well, had to take medicine every day. I was the one who controlled his pills, separated them properly, gave them at the right times. He complained, said I was annoying, but he took them. Even sick, he didn't stop working, continued going to the shop every day, and continued going out on weekends. I asked where he was going. He said he was going to a friend's house or was going to resolve something or was going to look at a job. Never gave details, and I didn't insist anymore. I had given up trying to understand that man. Had given up expecting affection, attention, conversation. We lived together, but separate. Two strangers under the same roof. The freezer continued there in the back room, always plugged in, always humming. 50 years now. I had gotten used to that noise. I became part of the house. When there was some power problem and the freezer stopped, I even found the silence strange. Savannah had 2 children, my grandkids, Chase and Chloe. I helped take care of them when they were little, knitted for them, cardigans, blankets, caps. It was a joy to have those children in the house. They filled the house with life, noise, laughter. When they left, the silence returned and weighed even more. Wayne was getting old. His hair turned completely white. His back started to hunch. He limped on one leg because of a knee problem. Had 2 more small strokes in 2011 and 2015. Each stroke left him a little worse. His speech became more slurred. His memory started to fail. There were times he called me by another name, called me Barbara. The first time that happened, I froze. It was on a Sunday morning in 2016. I was making coffee and he came into the kitchen, kind of dizzy still from sleep, and said, "Barbara, give me a glass of water." I turned to him and said, "Wayne, I am Margaret, your wife." "Who is Barbara?" He blinked his eyes confused and said, "Oh, forgive me, I was dreaming. Don't know why I said that name, but I knew it hadn't been a dream." That name had come out too naturally from his mouth, as if he were used to calling someone by that name. Barbara, the knitting customer who disappeared. Could it be the same person? Couldn't it be a coincidence? It could, but what would my husband have to do with a customer of mine from 20, 30 years ago? I kept that in my head for days, but didn't ask him anything. No use asking. He would deny it, would say I was going crazy, that I was making things up. Wayne kept getting worse. In 2023, he had to stop working. Couldn't do it anymore. Got too tired. Started staying home all day. Sat in the chair on the porch, staring at the street. Sometimes slept right there. I took care of him, gave him medicine, made food, helped him shower when he couldn't do it alone. I didn't feel love for him. I won't lie. That feeling had died a long time ago. But I took care of him because it was my duty, because we had married, because it was the right thing to do. It was on the 23rd of October 2025 that everything changed. Less than a month ago. Seems like a whole lifetime ago. It was a Monday. I had just finished washing the lunch dishes. Wayne was sitting in the living room chair, watching television. Suddenly, I heard a strange noise. A groan. I went to see what it was. Wayne was fallen on the floor, eyes rolled back, mouth drooling. Another stroke. I screamed for help. Larry, my neighbor, heard and came running. He called the ambulance. They took Wayne to the hospital. I went along. Savannah arrived right after, desperate. The doctors did everything, but the stroke had been very strong, very severe. It hit the whole brain. Wayne went into a coma. Stayed hooked up to machines with all those tubes. Savannah cried nonstop. I stood there, holding his hand, looking at that man who spent his whole life by my side, but whom I never truly knew. He died 3 days later, on October 26th, at 6 inches the morning. I was there. I saw when the doctor turned off the machines. Saw when his chest stopped rising and falling. Saw when he was gone. I didn't cry. I know it seems strange, but I didn't cry. I think I had already cried everything I had to cry over these 58 years of marriage. Had no tears left. The burial was the next day. A lot of people came. Guys from the shop, neighbors, distant relatives, everyone saying he was a hard-working, honest, good man. I kept listening to that and thought, you didn't know the Wayne I knew. You didn't live with his silence, with his coldness, with his secrets. After the burial, there was the wake at my house, as is custom here. People brought food, coffee, cake, stayed until late talking, remembering stories. I just wanted everyone to go away, wanted to be alone, wanted silence. When finally everyone left, it was almost midnight. Savannah wanted to stay with me, but I said it wasn't necessary, that I was fine. She went to her house. I stayed alone, walked through the empty house, looked at the chair where Wayne sat, at the bed where he slept, at his clothes hanging in the wardrobe, and felt a strange thing. It wasn't sadness. It was relief. An enormous relief to finally be free of that man. Can you imagine the depth of that cruelty? Using his wife's talent and hard work to warm the family he was hiding from her? It's a level of manipulation that is hard to comprehend. But Margaret's reaction coming up shows a strength we should all aspire to. And then my eyes went to the hallway, to the back room, to that forbidden place for 50 years. 50 years. I walked there slowly, heart beating fast, opened the door of the little room. The light bulb was burned out. I turned on my cell phone flashlight, and there it was, the freezer, still on, still humming. The padlock key had been buried with Wayne, hanging around his neck inside the coffin. I looked at that freezer and thought, what are you hiding? What did this man keep here all these years? I went back to the living room, picked up the phone, called Savannah. It was almost 1 a.m, but I didn't care. Daughter, can you come here now? I asked. Mom, did something happen? Are you okay? She asked worriedly. I am, but I need you here. I need you to come, and bring Kevin and a tool to cut a padlock. There was a silence on the other end of the line. Then she said, Are you going to open the freezer? I am. After 50 years, I'm going to find out what your father was hiding from me. Half an hour later, Savannah and Kevin arrived. She hugged me, asked if I was sure. I said yes, that I needed to know, that I deserved to know. The three of us went to the back room. Kevin had brought a large tool, proper for cutting metal. He positioned it on the padlock ring, looked at me. Mrs. Margaret, are you sure? I took a deep breath. 50 years. 50 years, I waited for this moment without knowing I was waiting. Cut it, I said. He applied force. The metal creaked once, twice. On the third, the padlock snapped in half and fell to the floor with a dry sound. Savannah held my hand. She was shaking. Or was I the one shaking? I don't know. I approached the freezer, put my hands on the lid. That lid that had been closed for 50 years. That lid that guarded the secrets of a man who never truly loved me. I lifted it, and what I saw in there changed everything, destroyed everything, explained everything. The first thing I saw were plastic bags, those thick, transparent ones that we used to store things in the freezer back in the day. There were many piled one on top of the other, organized with care. The cold coming from inside the freezer hit my face. 50 years running. 50 years freezing whatever was inside. I reached out a trembling hand. I picked up the first plastic bag. It was light. Had something soft inside. I opened it slowly, and when I saw what it was, my legs almost gave out. It was knitting. It was a light blue baby blanket, one of those I used to make. The stitch was perfect. I recognized it instantly. It was my work, my hand, my knitting. Mom, what is this? Savannah asked, approaching. I couldn't answer. Picked up another plastic bag, opened it. It was a yellow baby cardigan, also made by me, also perfect. The little buttons were still shining as if they were new. Picked up another, and another, and another. Every bag I opened had a piece of knitting. Blankets, cardigans, booties, doilies, caps, mittens, everything handmade, everything made by me. I recognized every stitch, every detail. They were works of mine that I had done decades ago. Mom, I don't understand why Dad kept your knits in the freezer, Savannah asked, confused. I didn't understand it then, either. But now I know. He didn't just want to hide them. He wanted to freeze time itself. He wanted to keep those clothes new, pristine, just like his love for them. He was afraid time would fade those memories, the same way time had ravaged my own life. I picked up a navy blue cardigan, turned it over to see better, and then I saw. Embroidered on the little pocket with white thread in cursive letters was written, Wayne. My heart stopped. Picked up a white blanket that was underneath. In the corner, embroidered inside a heart, was W+B. My hands started to shake uncontrollably. I knew those embroideries. I had made them myself, had embroidered those initials, had embroidered those names. They were orders from Barbara, the customer who disappeared. Mom, what do these letters mean? Kevin asked. I didn't answer. Continued taking the plastic bags out of the freezer. There were so many. Must have been 50, 60 pieces in there, maybe more. All the orders I had made for Barbara throughout those 7 years were there. All of them. She had never taken anything away, or had taken and returned, or it had never been for her from the start. At the bottom of the freezer, under all the bags of knitting, was a shoebox, old, faded. I picked it up with both hands. It was heavy. Took off the lid. Inside there were photographs. Many photographs, all old, the kind developed on photo paper with white borders. I picked up the first photo. It was Wayne, younger, must have been in his early 30s. He was smiling. I almost didn't recognize him smiling like that. Never saw Wayne smile like that at me. Beside him was a woman, beautiful, elegant, hair tied in a bun, red lipstick. It was Barbara. They were embracing. His hand was on her waist. She was leaning on him. Happy. I turned the photo over. On the back, written with blue pen, was, Me and my love, 1970. 1970. 3 years after I married Wayne. Picked up another photo. Wayne and Barbara again. This time at a barbecue. There were other people in the photo, but those two were together, side by side. She was pregnant. Her belly was already big. On the back of the photo was written, Barbecue at Joe's house, 1973. 1973. The same year my daughter was born. Picked up another photo. Wayne holding a baby. A tiny boy wrapped in a blue blanket. Wayne looked at that baby with a love I never saw him show for anyone. Not for Savannah, not for me. On the back of the photo, my son, my pride, 1973. I started shaking so much that Savannah had to hold my arm. Mom, sit down. You need to sit down. But I couldn't sit. Couldn't stop. Continued looking at the photos. One after another. Wayne with Barbara at parties. Wayne with the boy in his lap. Wayne teaching the boy to walk. Wayne at the boy's birthday. Wayne, Barbara, and the boy at a park. Wayne giving the boy a bath. Wayne embraced with Barbara and the boy sleeping between the two. A family. They were a family. And in all the photos, in all of them, without exception, Wayne was smiling, happy, in love, present. It was a Wayne I didn't know, a Wayne that never existed for me. Continued searching in the box. Under the photos were documents. Picked up the first one. It was a birth certificate. Read the name Wayne Jr., born the 15th of April, 1973. Father, Wayne. Mother, Barbara. My husband had another son. A son 2 months younger than my Savannah. A son he had with another woman. A son he registered. A son he claimed. Picked up another document. It was a rent receipt in the name of Wayne. The address was for a house in the neighboring town. Date, January 1974. He paid rent for a house for them? For his other family? There were more receipts. Dozens for rent, electric bills, water bills, all in his name, all for the same address, for years, for decades. There were little letters written in a child's handwriting. Dear Dad, thanks for the present. Love you a lot, Wayne Jr. There were drawings, report cards, a graduation invitation. Barbara and Wayne have the honor of inviting you to the graduation of their son, Wayne Jr., Civil Engineering, class of 1996. His son graduated as an engineer, and Wayne went to the graduation. While I was here alone at home knitting, he was there watching his son graduate. There were letters, love letters between Wayne and Barbara. I read one. It was written in his handwriting, all crooked, full of spelling mistakes. My love, Barbara, I know it's hard for us to live like this, hiding, but I love you and love our son more than anything in this life. You are the reason I wake up every day. When I am with you too, I am happy. When I have to go back to that house, I die inside. But I promise that one day we will be together for real. I'll find a way. Wait for me, your Wayne. The letter was from 1976. I read another and another. Dozens of letters, all declaring eternal love for her, all speaking of the son with pride, all saying that one day he would leave everything to be with her. But he never left. He stayed with me not because he loved me, but because it was convenient, because I took care of the house, because I wasn't in trouble, because I was invisible. Picked up one more photo. It was deeper in the box. It was recent, must have been from about 15 years ago. Wayne was already old, white hair, hunched back. He was sitting in a chair, and beside him was Barbara, also old, with her hair all gray, and on the other side was a man of about 40, tall, looking like Wayne. It was the son. The three were together smiling. On the back of the photo was written, "Last photo with my love before she left. Rest in peace, Barbara. We'll love you forever." 2014. She died in 2014. And Wayne had kept that photo, the last photo with her. I dropped the box on the floor, the photos scattered. I looked at the bags of knitting, the photos, the documents, the letters. 50 years. 50 years of lies, 50 years of betrayal. A double life preserved in ice for half a century. And then I understood everything. Barbara was never my customer. She was the woman Wayne loved, and he hatched a plan to make me knit for his son. He must have asked her to come here, pretend she was ordering pieces, pay me with the money he gave her himself. And I, innocent, did everything. A scream got stuck in my throat, burning like acid. It wasn't just betrayal, it was theft. He hadn't just stolen my trust. He had stolen my labor, my talent, and my tenderness. I looked at my hands, these same hands, and realized they had been the servants of his adultery. While Savannah shivered in old coats because we needed to save money, I was knitting cashmere and soft wool for his prince. He had turned his wife into his mistress's seamstress. He had laughed at me with every stitch I cast on. The cruelty was so precise, so calculated, that I didn't just feel sad. I felt a rage so hot it could have melted all the ice in that freezer. Meanwhile, my daughter, Savannah, barely received a glance from him. He never went to a school meeting of hers, never helped her with homework, never played with her, never gave affection. Because all his love was saved for the other son, for the son he had with the woman he really loved. And the worst of all, the cruelest of all, he kept all this in the freezer, kept the little clothes I made, the photos of him happy, the love letters, the documents, kept everything frozen for 50 years. Couldn't throw it away because it was too important to him. They were the proofs of the love of his life, of his son, of his real family. But he also couldn't leave it in another place because I might find it. So he locked everything there in the freezer, frozen, preserved forever, and forbade me to open it, threatened me, controlled me. For 50 years I heard that freezer hum. 50 years I asked myself what was in there. 50 years I lived with his secret locked a few feet from me. "Mom!" Savannah's voice brought me back. She was crying, holding one of the photos, the photo of Wayne with the boy in his lap. "Mom, he had another son. Dad had another son." I looked at my daughter, my Savannah, who spent her whole life trying to win the love of a father who never truly looked at her because his love was all invested somewhere else. And then, finally, after not crying at the wake, after not crying at the burial, after spending 3 days holding everything in, I collapsed, fell to my knees on the floor of that back room, and cried like I had never cried in my life. Cried for me, for the deceived woman, for the used woman, for the invisible woman I was for 58 years. Cried for Savannah, for the rejected daughter, for the daughter who never understood why her father was so cold. Cried for the lost years, for the love I never received, for the life I never had. Cried until I had no more tears, until I had no more voice, until I had no more strength. And when I finally stopped, when I finally managed to breathe again, I looked at that empty freezer and thought, now I know everything. But did I want to know? I spent 3 days without leaving that back room. Savannah tried to convince me to go to the bedroom, to rest, to eat something, but I couldn't move from there, stayed sitting on the floor, surrounded by those plastic bags full of knitting, surrounded by those photos, those letters, those documents, surrounded by the truth I spent my whole life without knowing. I picked up every piece of knitting, one by one, examined every stitch, every embroidery, remembered when I had done that, remembered Barbara arriving at my house, smiling, polite, ordering, remembered her paying, remembered her leaving, hurried, looking sideways. Now everything made sense. She was afraid of being seen, was afraid someone would suspect. Must have hurt her too, must have hurt to have to go to the house of the wife of the man she loved, pretend to be just another customer, take the little clothes that were for her son. Or maybe it didn't hurt. Maybe she thought it was funny. Maybe she and Wayne laughed about it later. Imagine me making Margaret knit for our son without her knowing. Maybe it was a joke between them, a fun secret, a cruelty masked as cleverness. I will never know. Barbara died in 2014. Wayne died now, took their secrets to the grave, only left the evidence behind, the evidence that was here, frozen, waiting for me. On the 3rd day, I finally got up, gathered all the photos, all the documents, all the letters, put everything back in the shoebox, took that box, left the little room, crossed the house, went to the backyard. Savannah came after me. Mom, what are you going to do? I didn't answer. Picked up an old burn barrel we used to burn trash, put it on the ground, opened the box, picked up the first photo, Wayne smiling with Barbara, looked at that image, at that happy man I never knew, lit a match, touched it to the photo. It caught fire fast, saw his face melt, turn black, turn to ash, threw it inside the barrel, picked another photo, burned another, burned one by one all the photos of him happy, of him with her, of him with the sun, all turned to smoke, turned to ash, turned to nothing, burned the letters, all of them, saw his words of love for her turn to dust, saw his promises of being together turn to smoke, burned the documents, the receipts, the bills, the proofs that he supported another house, another family, another life. Burned everything, except one thing, one photo, the photo of the baby, of that little boy wrapped in the blue blanket, Wayne Jr., with the navy blue cardigan I had made with the W embroidered on the pocket. This photo I kept, don't know why. Maybe because that baby wasn't to blame for anything. Maybe because, despite everything, he was an innocent child. Maybe because that cardigan had been made by my hands, with my affection, even without me knowing who it was really for. When I finished burning everything, Savannah approached me. She had cried so much these 3 days that her eyes were swollen, red. Mom, what do we do now? Do we look for this man? This Wayne Jr.? I looked at my daughter, my Savannah, who spent her whole childhood trying to gain the attention of a father who never truly looked at her. A father who kept all his love locked in a freezer, all his love reserved for another son. Yes, I said. We look for him. He deserves to know the truth, just as we deserve to. It took 2 weeks for us to find him. Savannah asked for help from a cousin of hers who works with computers, internet stuff. He managed to find the full name, the address. Wayne Jr. lived in the capital, was a civil engineer, just like it said on the diploma, married, had 2 children. I wrote a letter, told who I was, told what I had discovered, sent the photo of him as a baby along with the cardigan, that navy blue cardigan with the W embroidered that was kept in the freezer all these years. 3 days later, he called me. His voice was deep, trembling. He said he didn't know his father was married. His mother, Barbara, always said they were separated, that his father had another family, yes, but that it was a family from before, from a marriage that didn't work out. She never said Wayne was married at the same time, never said he had another daughter the same age. He cried on the phone, said he felt deceived, betrayed, that the image he had of his father had crumbled. Asked if he could come see me. I said yes. He came the following Saturday, arrived by car early in the morning. He was a tall man, strong, with glasses, looked like Wayne, but had his mother's smile. That smile I remembered from Barbara when she came to order knitting. We sat in the living room, me, him, Savannah. It was strange, very strange. We were half-siblings, but had never seen each other before, never knew about each other. He held the navy blue cardigan in his hands, ran his fingers over the embroidery. It was clearly too small for him now, a relic from a childhood he thought he understood. He looked at the tiny W, and his hands trembled. "Was it you who made this?" he asked. "It was early in 1974. Your mother ordered it, only I didn't know she was your real mother. I thought she was just another customer." He looked at me with eyes full of water. "You embroidered my name without knowing it was for me." I did. I embroidered with all the affection in the world, because that was how I did my work, with love, even without knowing who it was for. He started to cry. And me too. And Savannah too. The three there crying together, crying for the lies, for the separate lives, for the father who was never honest with anyone. We talked for hours. He told how his life was. Said his father visited every week, that he spent weekends with him and his mother, that he went to all his football games when he was a child, to all the parties, to all the school meetings, that he taught him to ride a bike, that he helped him study for the SATs, that he cried with pride when he graduated as an engineer. And while he spoke, I saw Savannah beside him listening to all that, listening about a present, affectionate, loving father, a father she never had, the same man, two completely different lives. Seeing these two worlds collide is devastating. Savannah had to sit there and listen to how her father gave his best self to someone else, while she got nothing but his coldness. It's a harsh reality, but listen to how Margaret chooses to handle this final blow. When Wayne Jr. left, it was already getting dark. He hugged me before going, said he was sorry, very sorry, that he wished he had known us before, that he wished things had been different. I said it wasn't his fault, that he had nothing to do with his father's choices. After he left, Savannah and I stayed sitting on the porch in silence, looking at the empty street, until she spoke very softly. "Mom, why did Dad love him and not love us?" I held her hand. That hand I held so many times when she was little. "I don't know, my daughter. I think we will never know what went through his head. But I know one thing. The love he didn't give to you, I gave double. And you grew up strong, hardworking, honest. You are a wonderful woman. And that wasn't because of him. It was in spite of him." She rested her head on my shoulder and we stayed like that, embraced until night fell completely. In the following days, I made a decision. I donated all the knits that were in the freezer, all those pieces I had made so many years ago, donated to a daycare here in town for poor children who needed them. Those blankets, those cardigans, those doilies were finally going to serve for something good. We're going to warm real children. We're going to be useful. And the freezer, that cursed freezer that stayed 50 years locked, 50 years guarding secrets, 50 years humming in my house. I told Kevin to take it away, donate it, throw it away. It doesn't matter. I didn't want to see that anymore. Didn't want to hear that noise anymore. Didn't want anything else that reminded me of Wayne and his lies. When Wayne Jr., my husband's secret son, held that navy blue cardigan and wept, I realized he was just a victim, too. He had a present father, but a life built on lies. As for me, I lost the husband I thought I had, but I found myself again. Tonight, the house has fallen silent again. But for the first time in 58 years, this silence isn't scary. There is no menacing hum from the freezer, no cold indifference from Wayne. It is the quiet of freedom. I am knitting a new blanket now. It is bright red, a color Wayne hated. I am knitting it for me. My friends, the biggest lesson I learned isn't how to catch a cheater. It is this: never let your peace depend on someone else's secrets. If your intuition tells you something is frozen in your home, seek the warmth of the truth immediately. It will hurt once, and then the wound will heal. That is better than letting the bone-deep cold kill you every single day. Thank you for opening this freezer of memories with me. If this 6-year-old woman's story gave you even a little courage, Please leave a red heart in the comments below. Goodbye, and stay warm.